So I'm not an actor, and I don't play one on TV either, but I'm going to read for you a piece of the script from Moneyball. And by Moneyball, I mean the movie. This did not appear in the book because this did not actually occur in real life, but it's still awesome. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is a daily shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Billy Beane, as played by Brad Pitt, is sitting at the table with the Oakland Scouts all around him. And it's all these old guys with chew. And instead of talking about statistics or data, they're talking about how some players think less of themselves because of the caliber of the girlfriends they have and whatever. It's exaggerated, but that's also nature of Hollywood. Anyway, so Billy's trying to make the case with the rest of the room that the A's have to do things differently. They're playing a different game. That's the argument that's being put forth. The economics of Major League Baseball are so screwed up, even back then, as opposed to now when they're way, way, way more out of whack, that Beane wants to really just not just think out of the box, but just blow up the box. So Billy says to the group, we can't do it like the Yankees. If we try to play with them in here, we're not going to be able to play with them out there. Grady, the lead old grumpy scout, says, that's fortune cookie wisdom. Billy says, no, it's just regular wisdom. Isn't the definition of insanity doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result each time? Grady says, you haven't heard our recommendations. Billy says, I'm looking at them, and I knew what they were going to be before I looked at them. Grady, we've been doing this a long time. Billy, okay, stop. The problem we're trying to solve is that this is an unfair game. There are rich teams, poor teams, 50 feet of crap, and then there's us. And now we've been gutted. We're organ donors to the rich. The Red Sox took our kidneys and the Yankees took our heart. Okay, now, the 50 feet of crap line, by every accounting, never occurred. Not in real life and not in Michael Lewis's brilliant book, which preceded the movie. This was something that Brad Pitt himself added. He just felt it was right. It was a line that he'd seen, and actually I think a lot of us had seen, used on Friends in an argument between Ross and Rachel, but I digress. I've shared this sentiment in the past on this program, and in just being blunt here with you, it seems to have drawn more of a confused reaction than anything else. But I'll point out that the current management of your Pittsburgh baseball club carries itself, conducts itself like the Yankees, like the Red Sox. Their predecessors did this as well, meaning Neil Huntington's front office. They would talk a lot about, quote, the industry and the way things are around the game and trends and tendencies. Whereas teams like the A's, and then eventually the team that kind of superseded the A's in the Moneyball category, the Rays, were the renegades in all of this. They were the ones who said, listen, just like the Brad Pitt character did, we're not those teams. We're not equipped to do this the way they are. So we either just get out of this business, which really isn't an option, or we try doing things very differently. Very differently. The Rays have done that. The Rays have done it year after year after year, and they've done it in the Yankees and the Red Sox division, which no longer, by the way, automatically goes to either the Yankees or the Red Sox. In large part because the rest of that division got tired of being their doormat year after year. So it wasn't just the Rays. Eventually the Orioles became inspired. The Blue Jays became inspired. The Jays are now in first place in that division, 61-42. Best record in the American League, actually. And for that matter, the team that's got the best record in all of baseball, that happens to be in this division, happens to be based in a market that is 2/3 the size of the Pittsburgh market, that, of course, being Milwaukee and the Brewers. Why? They got themselves a smart GM that the Pirates said no to in favor of Ben Cherington, that being Matt Arnold. I wouldn't describe the Brewers' practices as being anything exceptionally unusual, but they don't go with the flow either. Certainly not as it applies to their amateur acquisition and resultant development. Very, very sound system with a lot of solid talent being funneled through, a good bit of it, incidentally, from the international ranks in Latin America, which Cherington had forgotten completely about until one day last year when he was looking for a scapegoat and he fired his Latin American guy who hadn't produced anything in 7 years. This system, I have shouted it from the figurative heavens, is unfair. It becomes more unfair with each passing season. The best possible path that can be taken for baseball, not just for the Pirates, but for about 10 teams that enter pretty much every summer with zero hope, is for a salary cap system. That means a ceiling, a floor, and immensely expanded revenue sharing. All three of those are part of the system. Would that cure everything for the Pirates? No, not with a GM like this. In fact, one could argue that it would expose all of the many shortcomings of the Pirates front office that much more, because the rest of the stuff then becomes equal. And if you're run badly in a salary cap system, they have a word for that. Two, actually, Cleveland Browns. As it is, all along, all through this, man, it would have been nice to see the Pirates try something, anything, along the way, instead of just trying to fit in with the big boys club like they'd finally made it. They became the front office of a major league team, and now they can act like the Yankees and the Red Sox and high-five each other. Yuck. Anyway, when we come back, J1Q.
If you're looking for a great dining experience, look no further than North Shore Tavern. Located directly across Federal Street from PNC Park, next door to Mike's Beer Bar, North Shore Tavern is Pittsburgh's home for steak on a stone. Enjoy your steak finished on a hot lava stone in front of you, where you ensure each piece is cooked to exactly your liking. Or try their rotating selection of entrees, hot sandwiches, salads, and burgers, all while enjoying the ambiance dedicated to the great players and history of the Pittsburgh Pirates all around you. Come see why everyone's talking about North Shore Tavern and steak on a stone.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragecheck.org. That's gunstoragecheck.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from John, who says, "Hi DK, with the Pirates sweep of the Tigers this week, their home record for the season is 29-24. The road record is 13-37. That's the second worst road percentage in baseball, with only the Rockies being worse, and it gives the Pirates the biggest differential in Major League Baseball between home and road records. To what do you attribute that differential? Is there anything systemic that can be done to help the team perform better on the road?" You know, John, I was hit with a direct vibe on this front not so long ago. Normally, I'm just going to be honest with you here, I throw the home and road questions out. It's just, unless it's a really emotional sport and there's something physical or punishing about it where you need to be really amped up, I don't see it as a factor. But here's why I think your question on this has some merit. The Pirates had just dominated the Mets and the Cardinals on that 6-0 homestand that ended earlier this month. And I'm here to tell you, they were feeling really good about themselves. And they managed somehow to pack that feeling and take it with them all the way out to Seattle. I was out there. I covered that series against the Mariners. You know, the one in which they scored 0 runs, right after allowing the Cardinals to score 0 runs. And the closest I can come to offering an answer here for you is that after that first game against the Mariners, and the way Brian Wu pitched, one of Seattle's all-star selections, by the way, I'm here to tell you that you could feel in T-Mobile Park that the Pirates had the bats ripped right out of their hands. They weren't about to hit no matter what happened. I remember asking Brian Reynolds about the way Wu started the game, and then I said, it looked like you guys were on him. It looked like, you were still carrying some of that from Pittsburgh. And he said, yeah, and then he stopped throwing fastballs. And it was accurate. A lot of junk came after that, and a lot of swings and misses through that junk followed, and it looked bad. And it's like it sucked all the life and confidence and every other good thing out of them. Next night, Luis Castillo, a guy that most of the Pirates had seen a billion times, had all kinds of deceptions going, was able to utilize his full arsenal, and it just carried over. It was the same feeling. So the next day, it's George Kirby, who should have been, the least of the three. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. The series was decided by what Wu did to the hitters. And as soon as the hitters lost whatever confidence they'd accumulated in Pittsburgh, that's how everything went undone. Not just in Seattle, but on to Kansas City, on to Minneapolis. The storyline didn't change until the final day against the Twins. And the reason for all of that, I believe, and boy, is this the most boring possible explanation that I can give you, is that they can't hit. Okay? I can't take the concept any further. When you can't hit and you get into a little bit of a groove where it looks like you can hit, pretty soon you're going to show that you can't hit. It's just going to take something or somebody to unlock that. And that's what Wu did out there in Seattle. He was just that cold splash of water. And if you're going to go through their home schedule or road schedule, what you're going to find as the common denominator isn't how hard they fight. It isn't how intense they are. It isn't who the manager is. And it absolutely isn't how well they pitch. It's that they can't hit. Please don't make me repeat why they can't hit. I appreciate the question. I appreciate the thought that went into that. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. The club is home all weekend against the Diamondbacks, and we'll have another one of these shows on Monday.